You're not
good
seeing
old,
it.
good old StreamYard. I'm still seeing it scheduled, but I'll go with what you say, and I'll just say I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg, and we are 14 seconds into live.
And I've got two machines, and both of them are still saying scheduled. So
Jeez.
whatever it is. Well, either way, we are the CRM players, and we really are happy to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thrilled to death, and I'm even more thrilled. We're going to see a lot of people in person in, what is it, 14 days, 2 weeks from, no, 2
Even
weeks,
less.
13 days.
Yeah.
Whoa. God, we got
But
a lot to do.
and by the way, let me say hello to StreamYard because now I'm live. There it is.
Oh, welcome, StreamYard. Nice that you brought Brent on.
Speaking of bringing things on, it's time to bring on the moment of Sven.
Ooh,
Oh, what the hell is that?
I don't know. Let's see.
Mm.
I'm back. Jesus, this one's tough.
Yeah, this looks tough.
I'm going to go really strange on this one, I think. I don't think I got it right, but I'm going to try an Estonian.
I was thinking of something kind of related to somewhere around Russia.
Well, see, that's the thing. The reason, to your point, your exact point, is it looks sort of like this hybrid between Russian-ish, without Cyrillic, of course, and Finnish. There's a little bit, so, and the one country that's literally right in the middle of that is Estonia. This is exactly why I went there, but I'm not sure I'm right. There's a bit of Eastern European Russian side to it, but it also could be Polish.
Yeah, Sven has been on a Finnish kick, hadn't he? There's some.
I don't
Finnish.
know. If it wouldn't, I'm saying Estonian only because it could also, but it also could be Polish. It could be Latvian. I mean, it could be Lithuanian. I mean, it could be any one of those. I'll say Estonian because it's just sort of a modest, it's, let's say this, even if I'm wrong, it's not a terrible guess.
All right. So it's Estonia. Estonian is the guess.
Right.
So Sven, let us know what it is, whether the Godfather got it right or did he get it wrong?
I probably got it wrong, to be honest, because it's not like familiar enough for me to go, boom, the definitive kind of thing.
Oh, Slovenia.
Slovenian. Wow. Okay. Well, we're in the right ballpark, but not that
I
good.
know. AI assistants ever panic.
They've learned to stay on task, even. That's probably like some sort of geek joke, even though it's not funny at all, right? But it probably is like some AI geek would laugh at this. Think that, oh, that's funny. They've learned to stay on task even under heavy data pressure. Ah.
Well, you know what? I think we might have somebody we can ask that exact question a little later on in the show.
He has a sense of humor, though.
he does, but can AI learn to have a sense of humor?
Can it handle heavy data pressure?
But all right, so thank you for the moment, is Finn. Once again, we are the CRM players, and we've been bringing whatever that AZ is.
The problem is I keep thinking of Raising Arizona every time I see it now. Bringing the as, but I see it and then I think Raising Arizona.
That really wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't bad.
No, it was actually okay movie.
Okay.
I mean, it was a Nicolas Cage movie, if I remember right.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage, and who was
the kid?
Yeah, and his girlfriend, and
right.
Anyway, we can figure it out. It's a joke for young people. We don't get it. That's
why. Thank you. And now you clarified it. We know we're right.
Yeah. All right. Now, before we go too much further and get into some things, we would just like to take a minute to wish a good friend a speedy recovery. You go first.
Yeah. So it's got to be 6 weeks ago, our buddy Vinny Merchandani, who is, many of you know, is a leading enterprise analyst, had a stroke. And he went to the hospital. There were a number of setbacks, actually. But the good news is recently, I'd say, the last week and a half, perhaps, he's been out of the hospital and is going through physical therapy and is recovering. This was difficult. It was horrible for him and even difficult for all his friends. He has a lot of friends, including Brent and I, in the industry, and we really do care about him a lot. And all we can say is, look, Vinny, if you need us, we're here, and please get well soon. And I'm going to give you a big virtual hug, and you will be getting a dozen bagels for your recovery. That will be coming already.
Nice. Yeah, I can't add much more to that other than, yeah, we definitely hope you have a really good and speedy recovery, and hope to see you somewhere down the line this year at some
I know
event.
we'll miss you at IRL 2026.
Absolutely. But hopefully we'll see you later this year. So just take care of yourself, and we'll see you soon.
You have a lot of people, including us, thinking about you a lot. So just be well.
All righty.
Well.
Okay. So with that said, lots of stuff going on. We have our usual monthly segment, although it's usually the third Thursday, but what is this? The fourth Thursday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fourth and final Thursday of the month.
Yep. So I'm sure it'll be a good one. I'm sure it will be. I think there'll be some jokes too. There'll be some laughter, a little entertainment. But before we get to all that, I do have some housekeeping. I don't know why I have this mental block around.
It is fun. Well, you know what though, you've gotten a lot better because you always now you say the word house, you hesitate and pull in the word keeping.
I really do, because I never know if I'm going to get it right, but I think I got it right this time. So there's been a lot of earnings, quarterly earnings, and all that kind of stuff coming out. And last night, Salesforce came out with theirs, and the numbers were good. You know, topped expectations for both revenue and earnings. But we're not going to get too far into that, at least not right now. But we are going to look at some of the numbers that was in the earnings report, because I guess there's some new metrics now that we're in this new agentic era. There appear to be some new metrics that are being tracked, and coming straight from the Salesforce quarterly earnings presentation deck. Luckily, that's a public thing. I'd be really sad if I was putting some out there I shouldn't be. But I haven't seen these metrics before. An agentic work unit and monthly active. What is that? Monthly tokens. Okay, so we all know tokens make the AI world go around.
I know.
But look at the numbers that they're talking in terms of what is it? 771
million basically agentic tasks carried out.
And that look where it started. This is like about 2 years, 14 million 2 years ago.
No,
700. Isn't that 14 million?
Yeah, 1 year ago. That's
20 January
25. Yeah. That's probably 24 for them.
Yeah. Well, it looks like it's somewhere in between there. Yeah. So not even, let's just say it's probably not even 2 years.
Under 2 years ago, right.
14 million to 771 million. That's some serious growth in the actual number of whatever. An agentic work unit, which is one discrete task accomplished by an AI agent, decisions made, records updated, workflows triggered, and more. So each of those things, I guess, is an agentic work unit.
Well, you know, I mean, it's an interesting metric, but all that ultimately tells me is Agentforce scales really well. I mean, I don't know what those, you know, it says the types of tasks that it carries out, decisions made, records updated, workflows triggered. But it kind of the value of it comes when you understand which one of those tasks it is. You know, because honestly, you know, if it was, and obviously I'm being exaggerating quite a bit here, but if it was 771 million records updated, okay, that's great, but there's an ultimate so what part to that. That's some of the simple things it's supposed to do. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I said I think because these are, I don't know how standard these metrics are going to be. I mean, I've only seen them right from a Salesforce deck. I don't know if eventually this becomes something that's tracked industry wide. That'll be interesting to see. But look at it does look sort of like a rocket ship right around when it goes from January 20, well, actually a little after January 2025 to where we are now. It is like a rocket ship. It is going
Yeah.
crazy up. The first year or so looked like there's, it was kind of, I don't want to say limping along, but compared to what's going on now. So it definitely does seem to be getting a lot more usage across their customer base.
Well, not shocking. I mean, in a certain regard, we're seeing, I mean, AI seeped into the mainstream when it boils down to it. It's, and when that happens, then these kind of things tend to escalate at the business site, right? Because look, I mean, how many people do you know just on a personal level are just using ChatGPT, one of the ChatGPT or Claude or whatever? It's like just about everyone at this point, at least anecdotally,
Yeah.
but that also tells you something that's actually very important, which is it's become part of how people do what they do, right, in a given day. So this kind of stuff becomes effectively, it's not quite there yet, but it becomes effectively the routine, right? It means it's not the exceptional, it's not the extraordinary, it's the routine. Meaning in terms of how people are using it at work. And at that point, that's when you realize AI, that's the importance of AI right now, the augmentation of work and life and parts of life too. The other parts of life too. But this tells me, okay, agent force scales a great deal. But the other interesting number there, the 19 trillion tokens. My question on that, I guess, and it's just a question, really, it's no judgment attached to any of it, is what does that actually mean? Meaning, are these Salesforce being paid for the use of those tokens? Look, I know just routinely, I have a limit. I pay Claude $200 a year. I pay Anthropic $200 a year for the use of Claude Pro, Claude's Pro tools. It's Claude Code, Claude Cowork, and Claude AI, right? But I have a token limit. And when that runs out, it stops and then resets 5 hours later, right? And then I have that token limit again. But that $200 a year is what I paid. The pricing models become really instrumental in deciphering what that 19 trillion means, right? And that Shashi's point, that actually would be indicative of how those tokens are being quantified, actually, not as opposed to how many were, quote, just used up.
Well, and I did not see them talk about ROI on any of their AI stuff. So actually, the only company I've really seen break it down like that, like equate their investment in AI into ROI, so far at least, is Meta. And they were talking about how their AI investments made a 24% increase in their ad business.
Well, I mean, see, Meta, to Meta's credit, as much as their obnoxious owner is, an obnoxious owner, they are actually figuring the model out, right? And they're doing it given what they do. I mean, and Facebook, so to speak, quote, Meta has become, effectively, and this is a really funny thing that I never said, I think I would say again, relevant again, right? Right. I never in my life thought I would say that again, but it has. And Meta's, figured out AI, and look, they've translated it into consumer side stuff, into business stuff, both the advertising on the business side, Meta, the Meta Ray-Ban glasses on that side, which is selling like crazy, right? So they figured out both ends, so to speak, that B and that C, and that is an enormously valuable revenue opportunity for them.
Yeah.
And they've injected themselves as a result into the landscape of CX, I would say, if I had to put it anywhere.
But I would say this, I think it's easier for them to do that because they aren't a subscription based model, they're ads. And so that's a usage and consumption kind of thing. And they've been able to show how they can make their AI more conversionable.
Yeah.
So I think it's great to see somebody actually do that. But I think it was a little easier for them because their business model hasn't been disrupted, as they said, it's actually enhanced their current business model, which
Yeah, and that also goes to that, the battle that we're seeing all over the place, especially in the CRM CX world, well, in the enterprise business tech world, really, on SaaS versus AI, which to me is how do I put it, a fake fight.
yeah.
Um, SaaS is here. It's cloud-based. The pricing models, to the point you and I and others have made over the last several months, have to change. But that part doesn't, right? The part where it say, okay, our technological offerings are cloud-based, which is the SaaS model. Of course, there's still some on-premise based models out there, but the SaaS model, that's not going away ever. Right. Well, no, I shouldn't say ever. There's probably something that'll happen with quantum mechanics and physics that'll change all of this and computing. But let's say this, that there's a phony battle going on. It's irrelevant in terms of one versus the other. Anyone who's arguing that's just trying to make a name for themselves at this point.
I wanted to bring this up too, because this just the architecture slide. We like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But you notice all the different systems, right? System of context, system of work, system of agency, system of engagement. Is there one missing? Or remember what there used to be another one on there?
Yeah, system of record, that one.
Why? This is why I'm so glad. I mean, I knew you'd pick up. I wanted to show this because it kind of sets up something that is really interesting, in which this is Salesforce, and they have been the poster child for not just CRM but really enterprise application software over the last, and the system of record is like the end all be all. It's something that you have to have. I don't care what else you do, you have to have the systems of record. And it was just sort of interesting to see. It used to be on there. I know I'm not going crazy. I know the system of record used to be on there. But why do you think it's not on there right now?
I think if you take a look at Data 360 down below there, system of context in particular.
Yeah.
And on the left side, you see things like CDP, and then you see Tableau and MuleSoft and so on. So if you look at a historic system of record, the value of it has been, here's a place where we can put all this data and then at some point act on that data. But it wasn't real-time activity. It was passive, in fact. And it was still valuable. I mean, even nowadays, even though it would be archaic as far as that approach to it, it's still valuable. I think what they're doing, I mean, Salesforce is doing what you do as a company of record, which they are. They're one of those companies who can impact by creating a name. They're creating a name that they want to be the alpha in, and that system of context. But it's basically an activated system of record. And what that means is, as data is coming from various places to it's being acted on, it's being analyzed, and then there's outputs that are coming from that. And all of that's being done in as close to real time as you actually can get. And so then it becomes an activated or an active system of record, but still a system of record. I mean, the data is going somewhere.
Well, I think
to some place.
I think if I had to, guess, everybody's talking about context now when it comes to AI.
Yeah.
And like being able to have as much context as possible to throw up into these models, so that the models can be as accurate as possible because it has all the context it needs. So we talk about all these new models and how many parameter or what's the word I'm looking for? It's not parameters. It's
I don't know.
It's not attributes. It's oh God, I can't think of it. But
capabilities.
No, it's not. I don't think it's called. Man, I'm just completely blank. But anyway, it's like all the attributes. It's like these models have now 500 gigabytes or 500 million. I can't remember it. But anyway, it's all about feeding context and having context across a number of interactions, so that you can have a full-blown conversation. And because you have all this context, it really does feel like a conversation. So it seems like they're maybe aligning that with what's going on with these models and how much information they're able to. What is not sure? Okay, Jason, let us know what you're not sure of, and we'll get back. But anyway, I think that's what that's aligning to. And like you said, system of record is probably a big chunk of that,
Yeah.
but it maybe context includes more than the
Well,
system of record.
me, Esteban, people like that have been talking about this kind of stuff for years. We contextual frameworks. I mean, it's the same goddamn thing. It's basically we're providing a way of looking at something that fits within the parameters of what it is, right? Meaning, okay, you what's the expression that everyone's used historically that has nothing to do with any of this, which is, oh yeah, that's right, but you took it out of context, right? I mean, but ultimately, this is the institutionalization so that you can take it in context, right? Meaning, yeah, it was said in this circumstance at this time for this reason by this entity or person or whatever said it, and thus you get a better understanding of it. But so what they're showing here in their architecture, just that's the technological underpinning to activate a system of record is literally all of those things, and that's what it's always CDPs. Much as you can be up and down about what they are. They were really important in terms of changing systems of record to something else. And again, to me, it's the activation that matters here. It's the activity. However they want to do it, they do it. But I mean, if you look at the tools that are sitting there, they are literally designed for the purpose of ingesting data, analyzing that data, coming up with an output, taking that output, creating an outcome, and then pushing that outcome out to the audience that provided the data to begin with, right? It's pretty much those are the tools in there. And with things like MuleSoft in there, the data is coming also from internal records and from the back end. I mean, in other words, that's why context, because it's got internal data, it's got external data, it's got conversational data, it's got all kinds of broad social data, specific entities, communications, et cetera, all being captured. But again, like all systems of record, which is still is, the data is going to something.
There he goes. Not sure I'd have trust layer labeled anywhere. Well, that's okay. Interesting. All right. So the word I was looking for was parameters.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're seeing all these huge LMs with, I think, upwards of 1 trillion parameters now that they're trying to load into memory so that the context is always present. Anyway.
Where's there it is. I didn't even see trust layer.
Yeah.
Literally.
All right.
Yeah,
so
I'm again. Look, the good news about that is that's actually Salesforce's architecture. So, and that's good. And they're doing some things to try to, impose their strength, right? Basically, so that they can become the alphas in this thing.
All right. So I brought that up, and we had to even. I know this is going to hurt your feelings. We had to scrap Stump the Godfather.
Oh God, no!
I know, because I wanted to play this clip after seeing that particular diagram and seeing system of record, specifically system of record, not on that. So I'm setting this up because this is Jensen Huang. He was interviewed after they did their earnings on CNBC, and he's talking about what's going on with enterprise software and why he thinks the market has it wrong. And I want you to listen to something that he says that's kind of at the heart of his argument. So here it is.
Cloud is definitely revolutionary, and it's an inflection point for AI. It's the first time that AI can perceive, it can reason, but it can also do work. It actually performs tasks. Like, for example, it can, write software. And that's the reason why we call them agents. They're agentic in their nature. What's going to happen are the tools companies, the platform, the ISVs, the SaaS companies, the tools companies, they will use agentic systems to develop their software. But enterprises are not going to go develop software. They're going to use agents to use those tools. And so what's likely going to happen is that agents won't replace the tools, but agents will use tools.
But that means that you think that they're not going to disintermediate these companies like a Salesforce or so many of the others along the way.
I think the market's got it wrong. I think it's very likely that these companies that we're talking about are going to introduce agents that run on their platforms. You know, these agents, of course, they have to be experts in what they do, and nobody's going to understand customer service better than ServiceNow, and they're going to come up with agents that are really fine-tuned and optimized for the type of work that uses the tools that they have. In the end, also, we need the tools to finish their work and put the information back in a way that we can understand. And that we call them system of records. And so each one of these tools have their own system of records. Those system of records exist because we put them there and we use it so that we understand the information that's finally complete. And so those system of records will still be ground truth, and they'll continue to be ground truth. And now the agents will, help. They will use it, and they will populate the system of records. They will use the tools that are available on these platforms.
All right. So now you know why I use that as a setup.
Yeah, I look. You know what? Much as I never agree with CEOs on anything terribly, but in this case, I think he's absolutely right about what he's saying about the enterprise. And not only that, even though he didn't indicate it or he's sort of hinting at it around ServiceNow, they're already doing that. It's not like that. It's not like there's something they're planning on doing someday. That is literally the core of almost every one of those companies who is actually making waves at doing it. And it's shifted the CRM CX market. There's no big six anymore, right? There's no big six anymore. And partly due to that, right? And then this is
so he didn't, in that clip, he didn't mention SAP or Salesforce, but he did in the earnings call. So look, once again, he talks about SAP system of record, the importance of the system of record for SAP. He does it in the same thing with Salesforce, system of record. It's really interesting to see Jensen Huang talking about that as a part of the discussion around there is no SaaS apocalypse, I think is the term.
Well, he's right. I the one thing I would say is none of those companies are ever going to reduce themselves to being seen that way. That's a reduction in what they think they do, and it really is. That's basically saying you will become a repository so that all these agents can go do other things. But what he said about ServiceNow, let me back up. If I'm reading those two things that you just showed, Salesforce, SAP, it seems like, okay, they're just becoming a repository of a lot of data that they have, right? And that'll be provided to the agentic systems out there, whoever theirs are. But I don't think that's the way it's being viewed by anybody.
That's why he said. That's why he started off saying he says the market has it wrong.
Right, what he said about ServiceNow is right.
But what he said, yeah. But what about what a couple of weeks ago when we had Shashi on from Zendesk? He literally said the same thing about the enterprise has certain things that nobody else really can get. It has all that data. It has all that kind of internal institutional knowledge on industries.
Look, you know what? If you think about it historically, even the enterprises have kept their APIs and connections to all that data cut off for years, right? They're proprietary, those connections, more often than not. Now they open them up so that things can integrate. I agree with both Jensen and Shashi about that. Look, enterprise companies, I think, well, let me back up. I think that the enterprise companies who understand that they have something that they provide to the market that actually can't be provided by just the world of agentic AI, that is very specific and it's and highly scaled and very specific at the same time and highly contextual. Those are the ones who succeed. The ones who are trying to desperately fit in the way in other words, we're trying to become competitive with Meta or Nvidia. I don't mean literally, but figuratively competitive, meaning they think that's the way the market's going, are not making it. It's why companies like, I think, Adobe and even Microsoft has, well, Adobe's fallen off completely, and Microsoft has faded to the back. And I think it goes to a point you had made prior to the show about desperately attempting to get somebody to, to use Copilot. Yeah, those kind of things. But I think ServiceNow, Salesforce, Oracle, and companies like Zoho and Pega and some of these other companies who are in the plus billions range are making the right effort in the right way, understanding the uniqueness to enterprises and actually just to businesses specifically, in case of Zoho, the entire spectrum too.
All right, we better get moving because we have our special segment coming up. But in a minute or two, talk about what we are now less than 3 weeks from.
Can you, is there any way to bring the agenda up? I actually have it in as a slide, but I'm not sure it can show because I'm not the host. There it is. Yeah. Oh, it can.
Yeah,
okay.
Now we can't go through this whole thing, but
no, but what I'm gonna do is flash through it. I want you to just take a look at this real quick.
Kind of hard to see though.
That's all right. It's not really meant to see. 4. That's our agenda, right? That's the show. We have over 40 speakers. We have guests on shows. We have some special stuff that we're not announcing till we get there that will be both really enlightening and fun. Our guest, who's going to be on in just a minute, our regular play in residence here, he's going to be speaking at this event. This is it's come together. And I will honestly, the platform we're using with Kaltura and our AV team and our event organizer and the graphics design people and our MCs and hosts, spectacularly. This is like, we loved last year. This is levels above what we did last year, like levels and levels above what we did last year. This is a real community gathering. We highly recommend one of two things. One, that you attend. You actually physically come and attend. And there's still some room and you're welcome to come, but you have to make sure we get an email requesting it if we haven't already invited you. If you've been invited, Jason, actually, you're one of those people. Go look and find your invite and then plan on coming. If you don't, and should we make the announcement now?
Oh, you see there's a URL up there on that page.
Yeah, well, that's a hashtag, and where's the URL? Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. What am I looking at? I'm looking at the bottom. That URL, IRL26.com, you can register virtually, and that's for everything. And it's 4 different possible things you can do while you're registering. The virtual experience is uniquely different than just being there. It's not just, let's watch a camera on the main event. This has 4 different streams going simultaneously, 3 of them until noon and the 4th starting at noon. You'll see 5 of our shows streaming simultaneously with all the main stage stuff. There'll be a watch party hosted by the prominent analyst, advisor, and CX punk, Adrian Winscoe out of the UK. We've got the Heather Cam where you're going to watch the draw. I mean, it's a really great event. But again, please come. Paul-Greenberg 3 at the56group.com. If you're not on the list, if you are on the list and you've gotten your invite and haven't respond. Otherwise, register at IRL26.com. You won't regret it. I promise you that. March 11th and 12th. 12th is the actual event. March 11th is the party. So if you're registering virtually, you're going to miss the party. And believe me, you will actually miss something pretty cool.
All right. So let's move on. I know we've not going to get too much in this, but we talked a little bit about the Brohammer and the Cowboy, and we're actually going to do, it looks like we're going to be able to pull off an intercontinental version of Disrupt TV with Ray Wang in Munich and Vala Offshore in Atlanta. That should be interesting. Yeah, and we just got this lined up for the event. Josh Barney, who is the CEO of what's Sports and Entertainment Alliance with Technology, otherwise known as C.
Sports Entertainment Alliance in Technology.
In technology, in on over.
Doesn't matter.
Under,
It all works.
He is bringing. It's really cool because I love that we're able to get some of the professional sports team flavor here in Atlanta. Atlanta's such a great sports town. So he is going to be pairing up with Kimberly Rometto, who is the Chief Tech and Innovation Officer for the Atlanta Hawks. On I know, as Paul likes to say, we're not a left-brained event, but there may be a number or two talked about in this particular session. I just want to give you guys the heads up.
Could be.
But it's still going to be a good one. Now, and I think we already. Why did that not move? Oh, that it did. We already talked about those guys. Now, we are going to have a really cool presentation by the one and only Dr. Michael Wu. I like to call him the lid guy. He wears really cool Kangos. And he is going to do a special presentation at the event on what we can learn from lunatics in the age of AI. I really would like to know that. And actually, we're going to get a little bit of a sneak peek from that presentation because guess what? Guess who's here with us?
Who?
No, Wu.
Oh,
I've been waiting to do that for a while. It's Dr. Michael Wu. Hey, how you doing, man?
And look at that.
Very well.
lid.
How are you all?
That Kango is something else. That's half Kango, half beret.
It's Kango. You can see.
No, it's a Kango, but it's got beret quality.
Is it a brand new one, or is it? Did you just get it from the cleaners? Because it really looks nice.
It's just one that I don't wear often. I usually wear it in like Christmas parties. It's a little bit too bright for most.
That's your festive Kango.
Yes,
that's right. It's the happy.
And it's recently the Lunar New Year, so it's red is the
Happy New Year.
The theme.
Nice.
Happy New Year, sir.
So you were waiting back there for a while, and I know we talked a lot about things that we usually talk to you about. So if there's anything you would like to comment on stuff that we talked about before, let her rip.
Sure. I think that chart that you brought up earlier, with the
this one right here,
unit, the agentic work unit, and I think this is very interesting to some extent, right? But if you look at it, the interesting thing is that the monthly token and the monthly agentic work unit are actually highly correlated.
Yeah.
Right. So what does that tell you? I mean, this is the thing that I always like, data is data, but the important thing is to understand what is actually telling you. Okay. So if you think about a token, that basically these, units of, like a semi-word, right? About 3/4 of a word, right? And their units are kind of, in the, millions or something like that probably. And then, and monthly work unit is actual task, right? Actual kind of discrete task that the humans do, right? Whether could be a very simple task and could be a very difficult task. A simple task would be like kind of like Paul has mentioned earlier, like updating a record, right? So that would be something very, very simple, right? But a difficult task would be something that like write me a program, write me an entire web app that does a certain thing, right? So do you think those two tasks will use the same amount of tokens? Obviously not, right? Obviously not, right? The simple task will probably use very little token, and then the really, really difficult task will use way, way, way much more tokens, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, since in the early days, right, there's these whatever AI LLM, right, they actually cannot do anything complicated, right? So they're only doing simple tasks. And what this chart right here is telling me that, right, for all this time, people are actually using these agents, very, very powerful agents, to do very, very trivial tasks.
Oh.
Okay. If not, right, over time, these two should diverge. They should actually diverge. They should use, the they should, the monthly token should actually take, be more and more much higher above the yellow line, right? So that's, so if for that reason, I hope this, chart don't become a standard. This metric don't become a standard, because if it becomes a standard, right, it's tracked financially, then people will basically try to optimize it, right? And what that does is that you actually promote people to use these agents, or these very, very super intelligent agents, to do trivial work.
Yeah.
To not use it to do something complicated, but because the metrics actually, paying, you get rewarded if it's tracked as a, probably you get rewarded in a certain way by these metrics, right?
And would it also be a case of, if the more complex activities that you ask it to do, the number of tokens will go up, which means the actual cost will go up for the complexity that takes place? So there may be actually a financial reason to not do certain things.
Yeah.
So
go ahead, Paul.
No, you go ahead, Michael. I'm on.
No, to that extent, right? I mean, there's increased costs, right? But then it's the significance and the importance of the work that you do, right? If it's actually something like, of course, writing a program is going to cost you more, but the value of it is probably way more than that you can get by just updating a few records or something like that, right? So, so I think for the same amount of token, like if you kind of average out sort of the amount of token per one of these unit work, right? It is a work unit, right? Then it may be whatever that amount is, right? Then it over time, right? This number should not stay constant. Right now, it's actually fairly constant. That's what I'm saying.
Well, wouldn't it also, like, the more people get used to using agents and building agents, they'll figure out there are more things that they can do with them than they originally were doing with them, and that might change this dynamic as well?
Yes, I think so. I think over time, right, and this two graphs should diverge, right? And it's probably a good thing that they diverge, right? And hopefully that people are using it for more and more challenging tasks, right? So the token consumption will be higher, which means it will probably cost more, but the value it brings is probably a lot higher too.
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, you can attribute a lot of this to this, I always call it the YouTube phenomenon. When YouTube first happened, everyone was like thrilled to death they could upload a grainy video to YouTube and somebody would look at it. And that was like, oh my God, that is amazing. Now you upload a grainy video to YouTube, you'll be slammed and nobody will look at it. You literally have to take into account production value, the whole thing. And it's the same thing, really. You're just kind of figuring out, oh, I can use this. Not I can use this for XYZ, but I can use this, right? And it does something. And over time, the first thing you do is the thing right? Everybody does
exactly.
It's like, I know how to do this, so let me see how it does this. And I know how to update a record. Okay, let me see how it updates a record. Now, if you get into a routine thinking, oh, I'm pretty lazy, so I'll let it update records all the time, you waste, at a certain point, it becomes waste.
Yeah, it becomes wasteful.
Right. In the beginning, it's just learning pains, really.
And you're not using it, for something that's much more significant. I think
that would meaningful use, right? A meaningful use.
Yeah, and eventually what happened is that I think, a company that actually use it to deliver something much more, meaningful, right, will be able to use this, I would say, agentic AI much more cost effectively, right? And as a result, in the long run, they will be the leader in this competition. So,
well, that actually, it's interesting because that goes to the heart of what both Jensen and Shashi Upadhyay said on the show, which is the enterprise does things that basically no one else can do. And that the use of agentic AI for the enterprise all of a sudden becomes really, really valuable. And it's funny because the companies that are getting the hardest hit are those companies, but they ultimately will be able to creating their own. Because again, they're not they have systems of record. They are not systems of record. They're companies that do things. but creating their own agentic AI stuff, which they're all doing, gives them a real significant advantage, to in a market and to a customer, because it knows what it does and it can provide you with things that there's no way in hell you could do. Look, what was the big argument in early CRM? Man, it's funny how all this always reflects back. You had all these companies that would tell us, and they would tell me this, Brent this, when we were doing this early on. Oh, we didn't buy them. We built our own. And it always failed. I mean, it always failed. It's like 1 out of a trillion didn't fail, and they monetized and became a CRM company, right? And so, but once you had an established company that really knew its stuff, and then all of a sudden the workflows they had and the processes they used and the business rules that they understood became much more efficient and much more effective in your company, because guess what? Those companies do that, not you. You build something else. Right. So this is the same thing. The enterprise companies, guess what? They do things you don't do, customer. So with agentic AI doing a lot of this, supporting a lot of this, and doing a lot of this, it's another world, man.
Yeah, I'll put maybe a couple of comments there, right? I think one is that, obviously maybe you could bring up that system of record slide, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that, is true. That's the system of context is essentially, the other one, the system of, the architecture diagram. Yeah. So basically, that system of context, right? I think Paul is definitely right, saying it's an activator, but I think it's more than that. I think it's the systematic capture of not just the data, but also the metadata as well, because the metadata is often what provides the context, right? I know this is the conversation we have with Paul or Brent, right? But under which circumstance do we have to get content? What date, where, and all those metadata, right? How long do we have that conversation? How long haven't we spoken about since last? So all those metadata is what provides the context.
Yeah.
I think because I would say these agentic kind of AI is able to ingest so much more beyond the actual data itself, beyond to understand the context, which is typically capturing this metadata, right? They're just adding this additional layer, right? That there's every piece of data, right, could potentially have hundreds of metadata to tell you under what context this is happening, right? This event happened. This record was captured, So I think that's, a very valid, I would say name kind of switch. The way I look at it is probably still a system of record, but now this system of record has so much more metadata that I can actually get the context from it.
It's like the record system of record is the fact, and the metadata is the enrichment that tells the story around the fact.
Exactly.
And that's what these LLMs, that's what they crave, because that allows us to have a further discussion or a conversation that doesn't feel like it's a disconnected thing, or I just told you that like 5 minutes ago. Now you have the fact and then the stories behind the fact.
Exactly, the context, right? So the other comment I want to say is that these SaaS company, right? I think a part of it is just the ecosystem, right? If you build your own, right, you maybe even be very successful, right? But after a while, what happened is that you are the only company that teach people how to use your system, right? And what happened when those people retire, right? Every new hire that you hire, or maybe not necessarily fresh out of college, right? I mean, they learn to use the Salesforce, the ServiceNow of the world, right? When they come to you, they will have to learn a completely new thing, and that takes time. It's wasteful, right? Kind of. Whereas if you don't have that ecosystem, right, and that makes talent acquisition more challenging, and maybe even people don't want to work for this because something they don't know how to use, right? So,
that's actually a historic problem in every way, right? I mean, there was a period about, I don't know, 3 years ago or so, or 4 years ago, I think, Oracle laid off a bunch of people that they felt were in kind of legacy areas, and people who had 24 years and 30 years of institutional knowledge. And then Oracle suffered because of that, right? Because, I mean, that's the thing. When anybody retires like that, you lose institutional knowledge. And once you do that, you got a problem that you have to fix, basically, because, you know, you don't gain institutional knowledge by joining on day one and then all of a sudden you have it. It takes years. So just that's like time immemorial problem in a new context, so to speak. And also to your point on system of context, I agree with you. I mean, I see it as a system of record too, with context. Again, exactly. You know, we used to call them institutional frameworks, right? But the same goddamn thing. And the other thing is with all the large language models that are out there right now, and probably some of the other language models too, the ones that context gets even enhanced by the fact they have permanent memory right now. So all of a sudden they have context as well as you, right? So, and that really, I don't know how that's going to play out because it's fairly new that you're starting to see the permanent memory, but there's something in there that just makes that system of quote context unquote even more interesting once with so the LLMs having that, and that the various companies are LLMs that they purpose built are partnering with each other too. So all of a sudden that system of context becomes something else, even more than it's being shown in Salesforce. Salesforce has been kind of go it alone, so they're a little bit different. But the other companies like ServiceNow and the others, they're not go it alone. They're actually building the institutional relationship. Microsoft too, but Microsoft for some reason is not being very public about it.
Yeah, so I think the interesting thing that what you say about memory, right? I think that's where, you know, these contexts, right? If it's, you know, so keep in mind, right? No matter how good of a agent or language model or how advanced it is, right? They always have a finite context. So you never have infinite context, right? So that means that memory, you know, is never going to be infinite. At some point, it's going to get cut off.
Yeah.
Right? So having that, you know, system of contact or system of record, right, with context, right, means that you can always kind of retrieve that. But you don't have to exhaust your entire working memory to just remember the context, right?
Right.
You could even forget it for a while, and if it's asked you to do something very, very difficult, right, that you could to write me an entire app that does blah, right, then it would take a lot of tokens, right, but then it would mean that you have to forget some of the context in order to use those, you know, those working memory effectively to write the app, right? But then you can actually load them back in when it's needed to interact with you, right?
So here's an interesting take on that it literally happened. I was working on an IRL thing. I was working on the whiskey tasting stuff, and I asked Gemini, okay, here's the whiskeys. I need a sheet. I need what size pour, blah, 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 blah. And I asked a bunch of questions, and it gave me an answer and built a sheet and so on. Then I went to Claude and said, okay, here's a question I asked Gemini. Here's the answers Gemini gave me. What do you think? And the way Claude built it, basically Claude gave it a B+. Literally, I am not kidding. It actually gave it a B+. But Claude drew on context with me where Gemini didn't have it, right? And he said, well, you know, you have done this and this and this, so the approach probably needs to be tweaked this way in order to make it work really the way that you're looking at it, which Gemini didn't have, which is what, so, but it was also fascinating to see the way how the different ones interacted with memory and with context, right? It was a very
different
example.
Yeah.
All right. We only have a couple of minutes left, and I wanted to get the sneak peek in, so let's go to that.
Sure.
All right, so let me pop up just what you're going to be speaking about, since we do have the actual title here, and you can't give us everything, but what can you give us to make people want to either come physically or at least sign up for virtual?
Well, I mean, yeah, literally is, what can we learn from the lunatics in the age of AI, right? And I think the talk will actually, tell you a little bit of history to understand, what ultimately drive, economic growth. If you look at the world's GDP, right, what actually, it drive that hockey stick growth, and a lot of times people were saying that is probably the industrial revolution, and one thing that the 2025 Nobel Prize in economics have discovered, actually demonstrated is that, like, it's not the industrial revolution that drove that. It's actually, the social architecture that's happened, that allow, two groups of people that normally don't interact with each other very much to actually exchange idea. And those two groups of people are essentially, the academicians who have theoretical understanding of things, and then the practitioners who actually use those knowledge to do things, right? And so when you have, if you look at it, then the thing that is really interesting is that they show that, like, if you look at the amount of innovation that have happened, right? I mean, they happen pre-industrial age as well, right? But somehow those don't lead to the, exponential growth, right? But what happened after that, the main difference, what they actually discovered was that, like, it's because of these two groups of people have a kind of this social institution to get together, right? And basically driven by the Enlightenment age, where they have coffee house, salons where these they call them philosophers, right, can exchange idea with the industrialists who actually use those ideas, and that's what actually led to this growth, right? And I think today AI has basically have brought us to, I would say, a junction where we could call it the fourth industrial revolution, right? And whether it continue to create this exponential growth or not, right, depends, if we could also drive the convergence of these two groups, right? If it does, then you had one of the preconditions that's necessary to drive this economic growth, and the company who actually know how to do that will actually reap the benefit dramatically, right? And these are, and I think they also talk about a few other preconditions that's needed for economic growth, right? I think one of them is to essentially have the incentive for people to innovate, right? To create innovation. And I think a lot in the context of the economy, right? The world, essentially, largely that comes down to kind of a IP protection, right? Essentially, it's a sanction, kind of almost like think of it as a sanction monopoly, right? If you have IP protection, you mean only you can use that knowledge, and no one can use it. It's almost a sanction kind of monopoly, but you don't want to protect it too much either, right? Because a pure monopoly will squash innovation too, right? Because they have no incentive to innovate, right? So that's one. Another precondition is you have to have the incentive, and the other one is that you also have to kind of remove the fear, right? People actually don't like certain people. I would say a lot of people in the society don't like these innovation because largely just out of fear. I think before the adoption of AI has, I would say, a challenge, and largely that's due to trust. I think today is worse than that. It's actually fear. It's actually fear. So people will resist this innovation, right? If you don't provide a mechanism to provide that safety net. And I think they actually study societies, that actually provide these type of social institution, that retrains people, reskill people, and that has led to these type of, I would say, exponential growth. Yeah. So.
All right, we need to probably stop you because we don't want you to give it all away, man.
Exactly.
Oh, that's cool. All right, I'm definitely looking forward to that. Once again, if you want to be there, what was the email address, Paul?
Paul-Greenberg3 at the56group.com. Just send it on. I'd like to be invited. You'll get an invite from Paperless Post. But the one thing I'm telling you, respond immediately. Do not waste time, because you won't be taken in sometime next week. So send me that. If not, what's the URL, Brent?
It makes it sound like you're gonna make them homeless or something.
I will.
Take them in.
I will be ruthless with them.
If you want to learn more or to register for the virtual edition of IRL26, IRL26.com. Very simple, easy to get to.
Easy in my email too.
And you can get a download the full agenda so you can see all that's going on. All right.
All right.
It's only less than 2 weeks away, man.
I know it's
Exciting.
frightening.
Yeah. One person says exciting, one person says frightening. I just shake my head and say, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm frightened because we have so much work we still have to do.
Luckily, we have people helping us out.
A lot of people this year. Again, levels higher than ever before. We had one other one. Levels higher than last year.
All right. So, on behalf of Dr. Michael Wu, who you can see in 2 weeks from today, actually, come to Atlanta, come to Buckhead. That's the high rent district, so it's a nice place to be in.
It is. It's really a nice area.
I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Players, and you know what? We not only do we need to update this, but since her Minnie's mother Ann gave us these really cool stamps, we need to make sure we bring these.
Oh, I have them already with my pile of things I must bring to IRL 2026. It's literally sitting there already.
All right, we will see you next week.
And so Minnie will see you in a week and a half or 2 weeks.